That's it.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order for Bennington School District, Wednesday, December 3, 2014. All ready to go. Citizens' comments. Seeing none, we'll go to number 2, which is the audit presentation.
Allison?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Allison Blessing. I'm a manager with the Bonadio Group, and I was also the manager that was on site for the field work for the audit for the June 30, 2014 field work for the Bennington School District. Hopefully you have or have been emailed your financial statements. I'm just going to go through these very quickly. With respect to our opinion, which is on pages 1 and 2. At the top of page 2, our opinion indicates that the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the Bennington School District for the year ended June 30, 2014, in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Okay, so that is what we consider an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. That's the highest level of assurance we can give you on a set of financial statements. That's what you strive for, and that's what you achieved. Okay? Pages 3 through 12 are the management's discussion and analysis. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but if you only had 10 minutes to read your financial statements, I would read these pages. This gives you financial highlights. It talks about the type of financial statements that are being issued, because there's a government-wide and your fund financial statements. It talks about economic factors that can impact the district in the future. There's budget to actual comparisons, year-to-year comparisons. So it really is a good 10 pages in your financial statements, and really kind of gives you an overview of what happened year over year and in comparison to the budget. Okay? On page 13, this is your statement of net position. And what this represents is this is your full accrual financial statements. This is taking all of your funds and putting them together and reflecting them in one single statement of net position, which has your current assets, which you have $1,294,000 of current assets. You have capital assets, net of depreciation of $2.6 million for total assets of $3,934,000. You have current liability of $210,000. You have long-term liabilities, which are made up of a capital lease obligation and some compensated absences of $294,000. So you have total liabilities of $543,000. Your net position is made up of 3 components. You have net investment in your capital assets, you have restricted, and you have unrestricted. So your net investment in your capital assets is $2,564,000. Your restricted is $217,000, which we'll tie back to in your fund financial statements, leaving you unrestricted net position of $609,000. So your total net position, which is your assets minus your liabilities, is $3,391,000. Okay? On page 14, which is your statement of activities, once again, this is taking all of your funds and consolidating them. This is the activity for the entire district. You had total expenses of $12,131,000. Those were offset by charges for services of approximately $69,000, operating grants of $1,787,000 to arrive at a net expense of $10,274,000. Now that tells you that's how much more money you need to cover the rest of your expenses. So you had total general revenue, which included your general state support, some interest income, some federal aid, that totaled $10,057,000. So at the end of the year, your change in net position was actually a decrease in your net position of $217,000. So there was not enough revenue to cover those expenses. So you decreased your total net position from $3,608,000 from last year to the $3,391,000 that you ended 6/30/2014 with. Okay. On page 15, these are your fund financial statements, okay? So this is where you look at your general fund, your special revenue, your capital projects, okay? So for your balance sheet, your general fund is the only activity that you see, okay? So you have total assets of $1,294,000, of which $1,275,000 is cash. Okay, then you have total liabilities of $173,000, leaving you a fund balance of $1,120,000. Now, that fund balance is broken out into restricted, assigned, and unassigned, okay? So your restricted is your major repairs and renovations of $213,000. There's also a path project of $4,000. Now, that's actually not restricted. We're going to have to make a change in the financial statements. It's actually committed, okay? So you'll see another category on your financial statements because it really is committed, because you can bring that back into unassigned, okay? Then your assigned is appropriated for your subsequent year's expenditures, okay? So your fiscal year 15 budget, you allowed $624,000 of your fund balance to be used to help balance the FY15 budget, okay? So that's what your assigned budget, your assigned fund balance represents. Then your unassigned fund balance that remains is $279,000, okay? On page 16, this is your statement of revenue, expenditures, and your change in fund balance for your governmental funds with your general fund, your special revenue, and your capital projects. Your general fund, we're going to focus on when we get a little further back in the budget to actual comparison. Okay, so if you look at your special revenue, which represents the fruit and veggies activity, that's just an in and out. You get a grant and you expend the money, so it goes right back out. In the capital projects, there was a transfer to take the money out and move that into the general fund. So therefore, that's how you have the restricted fund balance. The major repairs and renovations money was just moved over to be accounted for in the general fund. Okay. All right, pages 18 through 30 represent the footnotes to the financial statements, okay? And there hasn't been anything that's been a significant change from last year, so I'm not going to go through them in detail. I do want to point out on page 29, there is a footnote titled Accounting Pronouncements Issued, Not Yet Implemented, okay? So what this means is that GASB, which is the standard setting body, has been busy, and they've been implementing standards out there, and they will start coming due, and the district will have to start implementing these in its financial statements, okay? So the one that I wanted to draw your attention to is GASB statement number 68. So it's the first paragraph in this footnote. And what that really means is that for next year, for June 30, 2015, the state is going to have to provide you information as to what the district's share of the overall Vermont pension liability is. Okay, so you have a piece of what the overall pension liability is, and this standard is saying you are now required to report that in your financial statements, okay? Not at your fund level. It's going to be at the overall entity-wide level. So there will be another liability that will show up on there, but the state's going to have to provide that information to you.
Okay, it's the state that's supplying that information.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yes.
Excuse me,
Yes.
does this new provision on this number 68, is there a deadline that the state has to give it to our financial people in order to get it over to you? Is there?
I don't know what the states are doing and how they're trying to put this together, to be able to basically split it out amongst all the municipalities that participate in their state retirement plans.
Theoretically, we have to have it by June 30th. The current thought is the treasurer will present it to the legislature in January. And what happens there, I don't know how it gets churned out, but ultimately, otherwise we can't get it into our, if we don't have it by June 30th, we can't get it into our statements.
I see.
But they've been working on it, they've had actuarials in all fall trying to figure out these numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, across the country, this is a problem, so everybody has to report it this way, so. Okay, if we go to page 31,
Can
go
you
ahead.
just
Oh,
tell
sorry,
them on
my
page
bad.
30?
Yep, I can. Okay, on page 30, there is a subsequent event footnote. And it discusses your tax anticipation note that you issued on July 1st and that you pay throughout the year. And then there's also a state law that was enacted, okay? There was Act 179 that was enacted, which will impact, or could impact, your future budgets effective after July 1, 2015. Because you're going to be required to pay an annual assessment for any teachers who are now joining the retirement system. So that will, basically what it is for those teachers' health and medical benefits, there's going to be an annual assessment for anyone who's hired on or after July 1, 2015, that enters into the retirement system.
And this is part of the mechanism to fill the hole that they're going to report to us under GASB 68 that we're supposedly responsible for.
Is that a reoccurring expense every year?
Yes.
In other words, if that teacher X comes in and we pick it up, as long as that teacher is in the district, we pick it up every year?
Yeah, eventually, as your staff turns over, you will be paying this, and this grows, this is tied to inflation and will grow. You will pay this for every staff that's
Might
in the
not be
system.
here by then, but everyone you hire from now on.
Wow.
And it's attached to the COLA.
Yeah, it has
So it's in New England, it's not the Wall Street Journal, but it's a New England economic, project, yeah, it's a New England COLA.
So
National COLA.
we have to budget for that
Oh, yeah.
Another thing.
starting this year.
Yes.
Yes, we will budget effective July 1, 2015. So we will be talking to the principals, according to the collective bargaining agreement, in order for the teachers to receive their severance or retirement benefit, they have to notify us by January 6th, I believe. So we should have a good indication of what the new staff will be, and, you'll begin to see that. I haven't figured out yet how I'm accounting for that, what accounting line. I'm sure it'll be a separate item that'll jump off the page, but it's going to start at about $1,100 per teacher.
That's interesting. Okay.
Okay, so on page 31, this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This is your budget to actual for your general fund. Okay, so as you can see, your final budget for your total revenue was $12,056,000. Your actual revenue that was collected was $11,885,000. So that left an unfavorable variance of $171,000. Your total expenditures final budget was $12,486,000. Your actual expenditures were $12,173,000, leaving you a favorable variance of $313,000. Okay, and you had, with respect to your other financing sources and uses, you had to recognize proceeds from capital lease obligations of $114,000 for some equipment that's being leased. There was the interfund transfer in from the capital projects of the $163,000. And leaving you, if you go down to the total other financing sources and uses, so you actually had an additional revenue sources of $277,000. So your change in your fund balance, if you look at your final budget column, you actually budgeted to utilize $479,000 of fund balance. You actually utilize $9,900 of fund balance. Okay, so that's a favorable variance from what you budgeted to use to what you actually used of almost $470,000. Okay, so you still used a little bit of fund balance, but nowhere near what you had anticipated budgeting. Okay? All right, and the last item that I'd like to discuss, on pages 32 and 33 and 34, this is another required report that we have to issue. This is our independent auditor's report on your internal controls over your financial reporting and compliance and other matters. And on page 34, this is basically just a summary of that, okay? So as we already discussed, the type of independent auditor's report that we issued on your financial statements was an unmodified opinion, okay? So highest level of assurance we can give you. With respect to your internal control over financial reporting, we are required to report to you if we find any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We are required to report them in this report. And we did not note any material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and we're also required to report to you any non-compliance material to the financial statements, and we did not note any non-compliance as well, okay? So overall, you have an unmodified opinion and no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses over your internal control over financial reporting. Okay?
Any questions from board members? At all? No. Thank you very much.
So
Yes, Rick?
can we get a motion to accept with the correction on page 15, I
I
believe?
think it is 15. Yes, page 15. To committed.
To correct the PATH project from a restricted fund balance to a committed fund balance.
Can I just do so moved, or do I have to repeat the whole thing?
You can do so moved, Richard, will make it sound good for all of us.
So moved.
I'll second it. Whatever.
All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Okay,
Thank you.
approved. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay, Jackie, you're on. Task list from last meeting.
We discussed costs for summer program, when does the petition have to be in? The board was gonna discuss this, we had a meeting and discussed this in November, and we decided we weren't gonna put a petition out to, for the summer programs. We, basically decided as a group that we would try to finance it in our budget if possible. And the principals are supposed to be working on what it's gonna cost us. Review treasurer's report. It's in your packet. Ad hoc committee to look at zoning attendance. We didn't meet, so that needs to be extended for the January meeting. Facilities committee, that was put on hold for personal reasons. Future meeting, present situation analysis of our schools. Jim's gonna do that in January, right?
No, tonight.
Oh, tonight.
Yep.
Is that with the Secretary Holcomb? Is that
Yeah.
both together?
No, just our local numbers answer to what I gave you last month.
Okay. And BSD budget meeting schedule. We need to know when that's gonna be.
It's on my list to talk about under finance today.
Okay.
Any questions from board members? Okay, thanks, Jackie. Treasury report. She's not coming in tonight.
But you have that in your packet.
Was sent in,
Yeah, both of them
all
were.
right.
You need to accept both.
I make a motion to accept both treasurer's report for, was it November and December?
The October, November.
October and November.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Thank you. Okay. Number 5, we,
You also got under the treasury report her letter rescinding her.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Yeah, oh,
all right,
But before you go.
Yes.
I don't care where you want to do it. I thought we'd do it under finance to try to figure out a budget schedule.
okay, let's do it right
I
now,
do it right now.
okay?
So the only dates that are currently taken are Mondays at 4 o'clock. Typically, what we do is every other week through January. I don't know what's best for you, Mondays, Tuesdays, prefer to stay off of Wednesdays, obviously,
Monday.
or Thursdays.
The Mondays are used?
Monday from 4 to 5, you can do Monday at 7 if you want.
Well, yeah.
What's the,
We have teachers'
people got your
negotiations
calendars
too.
out, what looks good? Starting brick in January.
No, I
No, we
would,
gotta start
I would
now.
want to start,
Next week.
where's my December? I would probably want to start next week.
That'd be the 8th, if we did it on a Monday,
8th, you're not going to be able to do because of,
not until after 6.
right.
What about Tuesday?
What's Tuesdays look like for you guys?
Or Thursdays.
Thursdays are open?
Fine with me.
Well, Thursday is supervisor. Budgets.
SVSU budgets Thursdays.
Right, that's 3 to 5. I mean, what time you
Are you
guys start?
talking 3 to 5 or talking later in the
You
evening?
can talk whatever time you want, just if you want to do Thursday at 3, that's supervisory.
There's nothing next Monday, right? On the 8th.
Yes, there is. We
Teacher
have
negotiations.
Teachers' negotiation
Thought we weren't meeting with them. I thought we weren't meeting with them till the 22nd.
next week.
Well, let's see if we can't pull this thing together. What
Thursdays
what looks
at
like a
7,
date for
Paul?
that first meeting?
That would work for me.
Thursday at 7?
I
Oh,
just
you're
need-
gone a couple
I just
weeks.
need to be able to call in.
I can do any,
Me too.
Thursdays at 7?
As far as I know, I'm going to be away for a few days, but I'll know a lot more tomorrow.
So why don't we
So we're talking the 11th?
pencil in, I'm not doing the 25th.
neither am I. The 11th and 18th? Isn't that the SVSU meeting, though?
Yeah, there isn't, probably going to be an SVSU.
That may be
somewhere.
canceled, Jackie, that one,
Going
so
to be
that,
early January and roll in with the budget meeting, so that would be open.
The 11th and the 18th?
And do 11th, 18th, and then move to,
I can't do the 11th, but not that you need me there, but.
that does it.
and then move to the 8th. 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th in January.
What's the first,
Can you say them
let's
again?
take the first one, let's get the first one out of the
8th
way.
at 7 o'clock.
What date?
December 8th, Thursday, the 8th.
December
I mean,
8th,
the 18th, I'm sorry. The 11th.
11th.
and 18th.
December 11,
December 11th at 7 o'clock.
central office.
I cannot make that meeting.
Okay.
Neither can I.
And I'll call you to get a call-in number.
Is that the only, that's all you need?
Well,
Are we going to have a quorum?
we don't,
Well, you don't necessarily need a quorum to do a budget, do you?
no, not really, but
But then you're repeating yourself over and over again.
Paul's going to be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
You're going to be there. You're going to phone in.
I should-
You don't know when
no,
you're heading
Next
south.
week, I'll definitely be here.
Okay. So can we just pencil in
Yep.
Yeah,
all those Thursdays at this point at 7 and then,
and could you ask your secretary to get a hold of Jackie Kelly to
oh yeah,
tell her that?
So
Okay.
when are they in January, Rick, so I can write them down? I
All
don't have
right.
my new calendar.
so January
else, Rick?
January would be 8th,
I hope.
15th, 22nd, and 29th.
Okay, got it. Thank
Can you,
you.
can you say that one more time, the 18th and what?
Eighth-
December 18th?
8th?
Oh, the
Oh, you're in
8th,
December?
December
December 11th and 18th.
11th and 18th.
Then in January,
All
it's,
the Thursdays, except for the 1st.
and the 25th. And then on January, it's 8, 15, 22, and 29.
Okay.
It may be, I just throw this out, it may be possible because of the dates and everything, and the administrators and their schedules and everything, that we may be able to schedule this in such a way that they could come in for their portion at the meeting, and we would go to work on the part that's non-principal instructional type of thing, so that they wouldn't be tied up all those nights.
Well, I'm hoping we're not necessarily going to need all these nights. I just want them to be penciled in
Yeah.
and reserved.
Yeah, let's see if we can't do that, because that's,
But, you know, with the Christmas and New Year's holiday, and it throws a curveball, we gotta get some work done.
on that first meeting, what, is that first budget meeting, would you feel is the real big one?
Well, I'm going to give you a lot of the groundwork, a lot of the, you know, parameters, the statistics, the student enrollments that we're looking at, and all that stuff, a lot of the demographics, that's what I was looking for. A lot of the demographics that are going to drive the budget. I don't think we're going to have some hard numbers for you on the.
Yeah. So can we work it in such a way that we don't have to have all of our principals at all of these meetings?
We can, I don't want to speak for them, but, you know, 90% of this budget touches their buildings.
Well, I want them to know, I'm not trying to shut them out.
I know.
I'm trying to free them up a little bit.
I know.
Yeah, so that's the purpose.
But we'll work together and figure
All right.
out the best
Okay.
way to
All right.
tee it up for you.
Okay, an item that I'd like to cover tonight is a memo that was sent to all board members and to Ken Swihart. And by the way, I might add that Ken is coming along fine and should be back with us probably for the January meeting. I'll be having lunch with him tomorrow, but I talk to him all the time on the phone, and everything so far looks good.
Good.
Very good.
Don't we all miss him?
On this letter, it's to rescind the resignation of Renee Gordon, who's the treasurer. The letter goes on to say, "Dear Ken, it is my desire to fulfill my term as a BSD treasurer and continue to serve in the position through 2017. Please accept this letter as a withdrawal of my resignation, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or concerns." So, are there any questions or concerns? I have talked with her, and she's assured me that she's met with the superintendent and the administrators at central office, and from what I understand, there doesn't seem to be any problem there. So, are there any concerns or questions as far as the board is?
No, I make a motion that we accept her rescinding of her,
Rescinded resignation?
yeah, that's it.
Do we have a second to
I'll
that?
second it, George.
Any questions?
So that's the case, everything's
Yeah.
good, the
Yeah, everything's
precautions that were put in place that we were discussing when we gave her the position to be in human resources, all the conflicts of interest and precautions, extra duties that other people were gonna take are all
I believe so, yes.
acceptable.
Acceptable.
What?
Nothing, it's just, I was looking at your face, you had a face.
I hope I have a face.
No, he was making a face.
Expression, he had an expression.
All those in favor to rescind the letter, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Okay. You know that information.
I will.
All right, on we go to the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda except for the warrants, which I want separated out.
You have,
I don't want to vote on the warrants.
oh, okay. Is there a problem or
No?
conflict?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Is there a second to Jackie's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Any opposed? Approved.
You got to do the
Now we
warrants
got to go
now.
to the warrants.
Warrants.
Somebody's gotta make the motion.
I move to accept the warrants.
I'll second
Do we
it.
have a second to that?
George, I'll second it.
Over here.
You have a second?
Yep.
All right. Any discussion on the warrants? All those in favor signify by raising their hand.
I abstain.
Jackie abstains. We have a,
Okay.
are you voting for or against?
I raised my hand.
Oh, you did, okay. Sorry. All right,
I made the motion, hopefully.
all right. On we go to the educational. Bennington Elementary. Jim?
Well, we're currently in parent conference mode, so teachers are spending a lot of time after school meeting with parents to talk about progress that their students are making. It's going on all this week. We had a fun day at Bennell on November 25th, which was in recognition of meeting classroom goals for positive behaviors, interventions, and support, the PBIS. It's when students meet goals, they have the opportunity to be recognized for their accomplishments and for following expectations. And had a lot of, the day was broken up into upper grades, lower grades, half day. Had a lot of cooperative games and had a good time, and good spirit was in the building at the time. We will be having the Vermont Symphony Orchestra visit us on December 19th with what's called Fanfare, which is a brass presentation for the students. I believe they'll be going to Monument in the morning that day and at Bennell in the afternoon. So we're fortunate to be able to have that to offer our students. We'll have a winter concert. Typically, that's held in December, but we're holding off on that this year because of a number of conflicting schedules and concerns. We'll be holding that in January, later on in January, so I'll let you know the time, but tentatively it's the 28th. We had teachers attend the SWIFT conference for the area with some Bennell people, some Molly Stark people, and central office personnel on November 13th and 14th. There were presentations on multi-tiered support systems and on co-teaching, which are both parts of our Green Mountain Star Plan. So that was helpful for us in trying to get a better handle and to look at how we can move forward on both of those. There were 4 teachers total from Bennell with me, 4 on one day, 2 on another day, but the 2 were part of the 4. We are at a stage of looking to finalize our vision and set up an adoption vote for the staff to kind of officially kind of make that we're in this. It's part of the SWIFT structure. You have to do that in order to proceed. So we're looking forward to actually having that be part of our regular routine fairly shortly. We'd like to do that before Christmas break if we can do that, but shortly after if not. So that's generally how things are at Bennell at the moment.
Good.
Questions from the board? Jim, I wanted to ask, you mentioned about the Vermont Symphony, but I noticed that you, am I just assuming that it's going to be at Monument and it's going to be at your school? Is there anything we can do for Molly?
I don't know. The only thing I know about how we happened to get it was that Vermont Symphony sent us a letter saying, we've got a grant, we'd like to come down and visit you. I don't have any idea how they selected the schools or why we were part of it and somebody else wasn't or somebody else was. So I took advantage of it. It's like, I'll take it.
Is it possible that we take advantage of them by, if the principal of Molly wanted to send some of her students over there and bus them over there for that concert, why not take advantage of it? Leave it up to the principal to see which students, or the chorus, or the music, or
Yeah,
squeeze them in?
there are some limits to the capacity of the group, but we certainly have some room to take Molly students if they would like to come over.
Yeah, I think
That'd be great.
Jim, is
I
it
think
all
it's
right if
250.
the principals work on that?
But we would certainly have room, because I think they limit it to 250. Super.
Okay?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Great.
do
And there
that.
was
I wonder
one,
if that's why you didn't get the letter then. 'cause you're-
It's
It
possible.
might be.
We've had Vermont Symphony here in the
Yeah.
past, but we don't have that in the works this year, so it could
Yeah.
be, but then
and
it's too late.
the
I think it
other
would have to
item
be two
that I
shows,
wanted
that's
to
why.
mention, Jim, was at that last meeting on the business that we looked at, that Donna told us about on the food situation, and you were going to, or you people were going to get together and find out if we could expand it to the other schools. Is there any follow-up?
Yes, and thank you for reminding me of that. We did follow up on that. It is a pilot program at the moment, so there is not an opportunity for expansion at this time. They want to make sure that their pilot does what they think it's going to do before they start broadening their base. But we will continue to keep contact in hopes that we would be part of that expansion when it happens, if it happens.
Jackie?
I was reading in the paper where Shasberry, teachers went to, Wilmington School, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Wilmington.
Because they have the SWIFT program, and, observed them for a day. Do we have any plans for us to do that?
I don't think
It
it was a
wouldn't
Swift
have been
school.
Swift.
It's not a Swift school,
Probably
it's
not.
actually a multi-tiered systems of
It has
support
multi-
school.
Okay.
Your
Shaftesbury, yeah.
We have been looking at, well, we actually sent some people last year to a school to look at some things. We've been talking about some connections to other schools, but we haven't formalized that in any
Okay.
way. So I wouldn't dare commit to you to say, oh, we're sending someone here and there.
I just think it would be.
But we are investigating.
It might be helpful to see how they're doing it, and it may enthuse the teachers even more.
And if I might also add, we're working with Jan Willett from Vermont Reads for multi-tiered systems support, and not Bennington Elementary School and Molly, because they're Swift schools, but Shaftesbury, Pownell, Monument, I think Woodford. We're all engaging in that work with them between now and, it's actually for the rest of the year, but our schools will be meeting with her individually, and she'll be working with all of us closely for multi-tiered systems of support.
Okay, okay, we go on to Donna.
Okay. This Donna. Jump right in. A lot of the same things are happening at Molly that are happening at Bennington Elementary. We're in the middle of parent-teacher conferences. Not sure if you had a hard time parking tonight, but teachers have been diligently here all week, meeting with parents. One of the things that we have going on for next week, our music teacher is working with our second grade students, and they are putting on a show, Melton the Snowman. This is sort of an annual production, and there's been a lot of rehearsing. There's music, there's costumes. It's very, very sweet, and that's happening next Thursday. And I'd also like to give kudos to our music teacher and also our fourth grade teachers, and Donna Stone is in the audience with us tonight. But on Veterans Day, there had been lots of rehearsing and practicing, and our fourth grade classrooms were invited to come back on Veterans Day to perform at the Veterans Home and then participate in the Bennington Parade. And we had all of our teachers turned out, a lot of our staff turned out for support. Janie Hart coordinated this, and we're just always really proud of them coming out to support our veterans on a holiday. So that was very, very, very nice. We also sent a team to the SWIFT two-day workshop, and then we also attended a second part of SWIFT that was held in Manchester 2 weeks ago. A lot of schools presented on how they were implementing MTSS, and we came away with a lot of good information. Our literacy teams have been meeting all of this week, and we're really getting some very tight plans in place and some real concrete plans for a multi-tiered system of support. So it feels like we're on a positive move at Molly.
Any questions from board members? for Donna? Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
You're on.
Hi. So again, we're really busy with conferences. It's been loaded with parents, which we love to see them, and the parking is scarce, I would agree. We had a talent show, our annual talent show at Monument, and our kids performed, and they did a fabulous job. It was really great entertainment. Our after-school programs for the fall are just wrapping up. We're finalizing our last few weeks. Kids, it was full. As many as we could take, we took, which was wonderful. Our teachers have been working very hard. We've had Bill Atwood back for our Collins Writing Program professional development. We have Go Math training coming up again. That's ongoing throughout the year. And then all three schools, Jim, Donna, and I will be supporting math nights for parents coming up in January on the 20th, 27th, and February 3rd. So we're sharing that, and Pat Conway and Laura Boudreau will be presenting. We're going to be partnering with Cat TV, who we're hoping will be videotaping it. This gentleman, actually right here, from Cat TV, actually spoke with us at the last BSD board meeting and was willing to help tape and then run the parent nights that we're going to record on Cat TV on the educational station. So we're looking to do that and get that all finalized, but we have 3 nights picked out. And I believe that Molly's going to do pre-K to 2nd grade. Benel has 3rd, and Monument has 4th and 5th grade. So we're going to invite parents in, but then we're going to keep running them so parents can actually see that ongoing on Cat TV, which is really exciting. Tis the bee season at Monument. We are the Bee High Fives, and so we're having students really talk about and write. This is a very special season for many in different ways, and how they can talk about their expectations and what they're going to do for the season. And the Vermont Symphony Orchestra, and I have to thank AIM, who is supporting the payment for them for it to come. It's not free, so they've been very supportive in many ways, our AIM, our parent group, and they'll be funding that presentation. And then Jan, as I mentioned, Jan Willett will be coming. Our date for Monument is February 9th, and she'll be working with us for 2 to 3 hours with our entire staff about multi-tiered systems. That's about it. Full.
Any questions? I wanted to ask, I ask this at every board meeting. Are we on schedule as far as our computers, our tablets, our systems? Are we having a breakdown? Is it on schedule? Are you, any complaints? Are we heading in the right direction?
As far as Monument, we've actually completed I think there's just one more virtual computer. Marcia, Frank, Elaine Hewlett, Patty Dewey, they have been wonderful about supporting our needs. I believe the server is ready to kind of come in. Cabinet's been ordered, so we're looking forward to that giving us a little bit more bandwidth, if I'm speaking correctly. I'm not the technology guru. But they've been very, very helpful, and we've been able to take some of our older hardware and shift that into the classrooms. So they've all been very helpful, and things are happening.
Donna and Jim?
We're doing fine. We're finding from time to time, we have pockets of areas that aren't as connected as we would like. And I do believe are getting new updated on the wireless. Am I correct? Do we know when that might come through? Okay, so we are going to update our wireless, which I think will be helpful for those sort of dead spots that we have. Let's see.
Breakdowns, George, are probably more connected to people who have gray hair learning new technology, which would be my situation. But all in all, technology I think it's working pretty well. We certainly, because it's technology, you always have, like, things happening. People have been very responsive to addressing those. I do think we're on the right track. We need to kind of keep that momentum going. However,
Keep going.
problems in the past have been, we're set, and we've kind of like lagged into, like, oh, technology's going real fast, and we're only creeping along. So we need to keep that in mind. But we definitely are heading in the right direction, and things are going pretty well.
And if I may add, the funding of the Chromebooks, which was part of the funding of technology, that actually is minimizing our length of map testing, because our fourth and fifth graders will be able to take those assessments in their classrooms, which will free up our lab, and it will shorten our time, and we'll be back in the classroom faster.
Okay.
And I was able to
Yes.
get on the internet here.
Jackie, go ahead.
I was able to get on the internet here, it's first time.
Well, obviously, that didn't work. Thought we had you locked out everywhere.
Okay, thank you. On policies, we don't have a report on special ed this evening, but on policies, 4020, appointments of administrators other than the superintendent, that is ready for adoption unless there's questions or concerns on the board.
So moved. I move that we accept this policy.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising a hand. Any opposed? All right. And policy number 7300, public participation at board meetings.
I move that we accept policy 7300.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Any opposed? Approved. Okay. On to number 9. Do we have any reports under number 9?
No.
On the, Jim?
SVSU meeting.
Yes, I'll report on that one. At the SVSU meeting, the board unanimously approved a 2-year contract for our superintendent. After the present contract is up this year, and the term of interim will be dropped, and it'll be a new 2-year contract. And that was unanimously approved by all members of the Supervisory Union Board. The, another item that we spent time on, and I wanted to spend just a minute on it, is that the SVSU Budget Committee, which meets on Thursdays, which happens to be tomorrow, we're on, are we not? Tomorrow. And all board members are welcome to come to these meetings. And we're scheduled for 3 o'clock tomorrow, Rick?
Yep.
At the central office,
3:30.
3:30 to on, and we adjourn by 5 o'clock.
5:30.
5:30, whatever. And, but really, there's an awful lot of material that we're going over. So if there's anybody that wants to come in for even part of that meeting, feel free to do so. I really wished we could get coverage from the media, and even Cat TV, but I know that you guys are stretched pretty much, but.
We are checking into potentially covering it tomorrow.
Do you think there is somebody that's gonna start covering those meetings on?
We don't know if it'll be regular, but we're looking into at least covering tomorrow, because we had a call today requesting it
Okay,
from the central office.
okay. All right, so I wanted to bring that up. Also, I wanted to ask Jim, a legislative breakfast,
Yes.
is that scheduled?
No, there's been no commitment on the date yet so far.
None yet?
No.
All right. And Rick, I wanted to ask this other item. There was an article in the Rutland Herald today about the governor and the 2 cents. Tell me, can you explain to the board exactly what that means? Is that firm?
No. No, I can guarantee it's not firm. The 2 cents represents, by statute, the tax commissioner is required to submit a report to the legislature to recommend what the base ed spending per equalized pupil will be and what the base tax rate will be. I've seen those two numbers and the 2 cent increase in the tax rate, but I haven't seen the underlying assumptions that were used to come up with that number. I don't know of a year that the legislature adopted the rate that the commissioner suggested.
So it's not firm.
Well, no, it's just, it's a recommendation from the commissioner to the legislature. The legislature ultimately sets it. The big key is I don't know what the underlying components are, and Jim's going to talk about the pre-K in his report.
Okay.
But the pre-K has been thrown a curveball a little bit, and I don't know how they could even figure out what impact that'll have on the tax rate, because very few of my counterparts have given any information to AOE to determine who's playing and who's not playing.
All right.
So,
The one last item that I have before I turn the meeting over to our superintendent is, at the supervisory meeting the last time, the superintendent got a letter from the auditor, and it goes back to refer to this report, if you all remember it, of the MGT report. And I'm going to ask the superintendent to speak to that tonight, because I'm really concerned about it, because they've given a deadline that they want some information on it, and it's time-consuming in order to do this.
Who's giving us the deadline?
I'm going to ask Jim right now to, under his report, to speak to this, because you remember, I've spent a lot of time on this thing, and so, Jim, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you. I have one other item which I'll do under other later on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
So I have three things I want to address. Good evening. Three things I want to address under my report tonight. And I might as well start with the one that George brought up. And the other is what Rick brought up, the pre-K bill. And then I have a follow-up to the report from last month. About 3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from the state auditor's office, brought my attention to the report from 2010, and my response to them was I thought that report was on a shelf somewhere. I said I know it was read and reviewed, but I didn't know there was any required follow-up. They informed me that they came back 2 years later in 2012 and did a follow-up where there was like 60-some-odd recommendations in the initial report. They had to be addressed, and then there was 27 or some odd number that were done in the 2-year follow-up. Now they're back looking for another 2-year follow-up in 2014 from the State Auditor's Office. And then I received a phone call from Dr. Robert Schiller, who was the person who was on the ground here doing the audit. And audit is a confusing term. It's not like the report that we got earlier this evening from Rick. It's not really a financial audit. It was more of a governance audit and how we function as a supervisory union. So what they are asking for now, and this is what I explained to the supervisory board, is they want me to go through all those recommendations again. And it's very similar to those of us in education, what a NEASC evaluation is of say, a high school system. You go through it, a visiting team comes in, they give these recommendations, and then you have to respond to these recommendations, and there's follow-up studies, and they're either completed, rejected, in progress, and it's similar to that. And the phrasing there, if it's not completed, what they're telling me now is they want a response from me on what progress we're making. So when I explained this to the board, the feeling I got from the supervisory union is they don't wish to respond at all, that they consider the report as, so that's the message I delivered back. And the update on that is I got an email from Dr. Schiller yesterday asking to set up a time that gave me 3 times that we could meet, schedule a phone call that, because he's in North Carolina, to come, to have a phone conversation about what the issue is. So we haven't gone much beyond that. The state auditor's office wanted to send Dr. Schiller here a week ago Friday, the Friday of the full week before Thanksgiving, because he was doing a presentation in Boston on Thursday, so they thought it would be a good idea that he came up here on Friday, and met with me. I said, I have read this report for the first time, and to expect that I am going to intelligently respond to something and what our progress is, and I also said, and I wasn't going to meet with him until, maybe it was before that, because it was the Friday before the SVSU board meeting, now that I recall that, because I said I would have no answer until I spoke to the board. So I don't know where that's going to go, and what I haven't heard from the auditor's office is, where's the teeth of this? If we push back and say, we're done with this, we don't want to respond to it, then, what's the penalty? And why they were able to require the follow-up in 2012 is because the auditor's office had paid for the report, a substantial amount of money for the report. So that, did I say
But
a question?
we voluntarily allowed them to come here.
That's, when I read the report, my understanding, the opening statement is another supervisory union that they approached rejected it, and then they came to us. But as some SVSU board members mentioned that night of the meeting, they wanted it. I mean, I don't know, it probably wasn't unanimous, I wasn't there, but there are still SVSU board members who think the report had great value and was glad that we had it done, and then there are others that feel that it makes it
There are
a
some
good
good
decoration on a
things into
bookshelf.
There are some good points in there, but I don't think, I'm wondering what the auditor, what kind of, like you said, teeth.
Right.
I mean, what's he gonna do? I mean, if the board and all the boards say, we don't want it, we don't wanna do this
The
anymore.
board's official response is, we have already answered this once, and we don't intend to do it.
And we have so
again.
many other things to deal with,
Yeah.
educational wise.
Well, that was my feeling, and that's why I brought it up this evening, is Jim's plate in all the central office is pretty full. And to stop and start getting into this report, by the way, Jim, there's a point. They also gave you a deadline as to when they wanted an answer.
Yes, they
Listen to
did.
this.
Yeah. They wanted it for the end of December, so that they could present it for that's just not gonna happen.
They do know we're doing budgets, right?
Yeah,
So I
They
only
do
bring,
know you're new in your position too, don't they?
I'm not sure if they do, but I don't know if that means, they saw their deadline, they want to present it put it in part of their annual report, but for the end of their year, but
Who are they reporting to?
legislative, I don't know,
Oh, probably the governor.
But they're not gonna have it. I mean, even if I was forced to respond, it would be a very quick and not a very thorough response, and that's not good. Because a lot of the items, the recommendations in there, are beyond our control. It's really legislative action. I mean, there's a lot of things about recommendations on consolidation that just isn't gonna happen, overnight or possibly never, so.
well, I wanted, that's why I asked you to bring it up. I wanted the board to know what we were talking about, supervisory, and I don't think there's any action needed. I just.
Yeah.
Catherine went back
what
and
you
forth on it.
I guess that was the first report that hooked my teeth in getting involved in this mess, because I found that on the website. There's some good points in there
Yes.
around our operational systems that we have, or lack of. And it
A
might.
lot of comments about facility operations.
Facilities, operations, job descriptions, review processes, job performance reviews.
And we did answer.
But have we taken action on it? Because some of those.
Yes,
I mean,
quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I just want to make sure. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know really
we-
where we are in that whole
Yeah.
process, because my impression since I've even been here is it kind of got here and it hit the shelf. And I remember 2 years ago, Catherine coming here saying, when we had to respond to this, and, we've given our official 2 cents, and, but that was about it. And
And it was critical, when you read the report, it was critical about our response that we had not, the initial plan, when they gave out when they first came in 2010 and sent the draft of the report, this criticism about how we didn't respond, when we did, it was rushed. And I don't want that criticism. So if we're required to do it, then they have to give me the time to put a thoughtful response, and that takes time. And that also means, well, not maybe bringing this back to this board, but certainly back to the supervisory board before I submit it. And here's my findings, and here's my recommendations, which couldn't happen in December.
Right, no.
One last item on this, don't want to belabor the point, and that is that Dr. Schiller did come and meet with us and let us know that there was a difference of opinion of the people that put this report together and Dr. Schiller. And it's interesting to note that the person that wants to come back now is Dr. Schiller. He came and met with us and said that I'm no longer
With MGT.
with MGT, but yet the person that that the auditor's office is using is Dr. Schiller.
Right.
Okay,
Right,
you got
not
what you need?
Right, I do.
Okay.
All right, on to the pre-K expansion. My recommendation to this board is that you vote to delay it for 1 year. The option is there, and it's not because we want to delay it. It's that we don't have the regulations written by the state still on how this is going to be implemented. So I don't know how we really budget for this, and we are deep into our budget season, and it's going to quickly go away and be completed before I think we have this. So I think the prudent thing to do is, and I'm going to need an authorization from the board to delay that for 1 year, take that option and do it. One complication is we are part of the federal grant program for, we applied, we're a partner in the grant for expansion of the universal pre-K, which would be, that would pay for 4-year-olds. And that would be 35 hours a week, which is totally different than what the pre-K expansion for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds who aren't in kindergarten, 10 hours a week that the state is doing. But, so that, if we're awarded, if the state of Vermont is awarded that grant, then we probably still would have to pursue that, but for right now. So if this board so desires, I would need a motion and a vote to allow us to postpone that for 1 year. Then I'm going to have to bring that to all the boards that will be
That's
affected by
because of
this.
finances and the
Questions from the board?
regulations?
Jackie, go ahead.
Sorry, that's because of finances and regulations not in place yet?
Right, we don't have the regulations.
I know the finances are gonna kill us.
Well, right. But without the regulations, I don't think we can intelligently budget for this. And so it is both, certainly is. We're all concerned about what but now we're going to have hopefully a little bit longer time to see how this will play out.
I move that we allow the superintendent to, delay it for a year.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, George.
Discussion, questions, comments?
Right here.
We have
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that we're going to continue with the 4-year-old program that we've been doing.
Right.
We're just delaying the expansion into the 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah,
I just
pre-K
wanted to make
expansion.
sure that was perfectly clear. I didn't want to.
Paul, any questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by raising their hand. Opposed? Unanimous. What else you have?
Okay, last month I gave you a rather lengthy report. It was from the 18-minute video that was by the Vermont School Board Association and Vermont Superintendent's Association. I condensed it to a PowerPoint slide. Now what I told you last month is, that was Vermont numbers. So I was going to look a little bit deeper in what that meant for Bennington. So what I have for you tonight is that ready? We don't have a clicker here, right? Do I have to stand there? Yeah, okay. So this is even fewer slides. I took out all the slides that are not pertinent, and these are just pertaining to Bennington, and
I'm a Mac user. He's Mac. Oh, there it goes.
You need help, Jim?
yeah. That's why I brought my, not familiar with this computer. There's the presentation right
Click.
there. On right or left?
Left. Right? Oh,
She said right.
I know.
What are the other?
Being the Mac user. There we go.
Okay. And there's the start show. It should be up here, but I can't.
Slideshow starts.
Slideshow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Now that we get that out of the way. All right, you saw this one last month. Vermont has escalating expenditures per student. What are they here? Now, the years aren't going to match up. I can only get to, as close as we, their charts, that was one of the things I said last month about the whole report by the state. The years weren't consistent from slide to slide. Some went back to 93, some started 2002. So Bennington, spending per equalized student, FY 2004, you're spending $7,800. You ranked 169th in the state. FY 2014, 11,787. You ranked 228th in the state. Average daily membership is dropping in Vermont. So our question would be, well, what is happening in Bennington? Average daily membership, now you say, wait, these numbers, there are sixth graders at the middle school, so they're included in these numbers. So that's why when we add up our 3 elementary school numbers and you're looking at 800 something, where these extra students come from. So you haven't seen the dramatic decline that you see in the rest of the state in the 10-year period, but you have had a decline. One of the other things I pointed out in the report, though, even though you had Vermont had seen a dramatic decline in students, there has not been a decline in full-time equivalent teachers or paraeducators employed. So again, we would ask, well, what's going on in Bennington? Now, I could only go back 8 years. Anything beyond that was not available online. So this is the best I could come up with. But your full-time equivalent, Bennington, 16.4 in 2006, 2007, and I won't read what you have there. And Catamount obviously was there at that point. Now, if principals here are saying, well, I have more people in my building there, it wouldn't necessarily be supervisory union employees who aren't direct student contact would not necessarily be in that count. Special educators who go between buildings, specialists like that would not be in your count. This is what the state report says, paraeducators, and I am, again, if the numbers don't look right to you, special ed is not in there. Student-teacher ratios, that was another thing that, yes?
You said special ed's not in there, but what about the ones that we hire?
If you hire them, if they're an employee of your
BSD,
district.
there are.
Yes, yep. So one thing that was pointed out in the report last month is Vermont enjoys the lowest student-teacher ratio in the state, in the country. And it has been declining for a number of years. So Bennington student-teacher ratios by building. Now, this is not class size. Do not confuse this with class size. Class size will usually be higher than this, but this is anybody who is a teacher or specialist in that building and holds a endorsement from the state of Vermont is in this calculation that is in your building. So, but not, it does not reflect what your class size is. Class size will probably be a little bit higher.
Read that.
So, the other thing that came in the report is, last month is we learned that Vermont had the second lowest average annual salary in New England, and it was below the national average. So, what is it here? This was a surprise to me. I went back and doubled and triple checked Bennington Elementary School, because you'll say, wait a minute, the average annual salary of the teacher went down in an 8-year period. Well, my guess on that is that's going to be you had turnover of staff, you lost a lot of senior teachers, you have a lot of newer teachers who don't have advanced degrees, but you're certain Bennington Elementary is below the state average, and Molly Stark and Monument are right about there. And that could, I don't always put a lot of faith in the average annual salary of teacher, because you can see how that can fluctuate. Mount Anthony is going to probably see a radical change next year. They have a lot of potential retirees between the middle school and the high school this year, and you, in all probability, will see their average annual salary go down. Percentage of Vermont students enrolled in free and reduced lunch. One thing we learned last month was that had also escalated during that time period considerably. So what has happened here? It has increased considerably. You know, you've had a big spike in Monument Elementary in this time period in free and reduced lunch, and stable at Molly, and an increase in Bennington. Yeah. And that's it, actually. So.
And I can tell you 25 years ago, our state average was like 24% in Bennington.
I don't think that's right.
The rest of those slides are slides that didn't get eliminated from last month's report. So you know, statistics and numbers are statistics and numbers. It gives us a snapshot of where we are, but I thought it was important if we were looking at where we were in the state, it's important that we look and see where we are local. I'm putting this together for all the communities in the supervisory union as well as for Mount Anthony. It does cause us to pause and take a look and see where we are. What I don't have for you tonight, and you alluded to it, is Secretary Holcomb's report. I just felt that there was enough on the agenda for tonight. I'll do that one next. And I'm going to break her report down to what I feel are the most important and pertinent parts of that. And actually, I received a different version of that just yesterday, as she has completed her round of regional meetings. It was altered each time she gave it, so the final draft of that came. So I'll do that next month, and that's one that really deals with like turnover rates of staff and other challenges like that. So I don't know if you have any questions on that. And I mean, all these statistics are available on the Agency of Education website. And there's even more than this. If you really ever wanted to spend some time sitting there looking at the statistical version of what's going on in our school districts, because there's a lot of information there from the reports that, and will be, you know, I think, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, December is the deadline that we have to file the reports for what we'll put onto next year's numbers. That's from when I.
first run of equalized pupils just came out today.
Yeah.
They'll be finalized in December, if that's what you're talking
Right,
about.
yeah, so the deadline, our deadlines to submit survey data is December 1st of each year is what, according to them, so.
Can I ask the principals
Jackie.
a question? This is just a general question. What is the average size of your classes in your schools? By grade level, you know? Because I can't find it right now. Just so that the public hears it.
Across the district, it's about 18 and a half.
Okay, so
It
what
was
you saw
highest
up there, it's actually higher in our classroom.
Oh, it's
Oh,
high,
yeah.
absolutely. That's why I said, do not
I mean, you've
confuse,
got some classes that have 24, 25. in it.
don't
20
confuse
25
student-teacher
children in a
ratio
class.
with class size, because I know the kindergartens are all up over 18.
Well, it's in your packet.
Yeah.
18, 19.
Yeah.
Higher
Got
ones
some
are
information that
25,
came out right.
24,
Yeah.
25.
It's in your packet, you can, it's not, you could extrapolate it there, but we can very easily give you that report next time. That's actually one of the statistical demographic stuff we'll start to give you on the 11th for the budget process.
Okay.
We'll show you all that.
But it's just, I just want to make that point with the public, that just because that slide said 14 to 1, it's not, it's
Right.
more like, in a classroom, it's more like 18 to 20 kids.
Right, and that slide is an answer to the Vermont School Board
Yeah.
Association slide that said that Vermont average is 9.9 per teacher, so, we certainly, and everyone calculates it the same way, so I mean, so the average class size is not 9.9 to 1, and just like ours is not 14. And could you find some classes with maybe 14 students in it? Probably, but that's not the average, not
Well,
at all.
because it also counts paras
Yeah,
into that ratio,
No.
so.
not,
No, what
No.
ratio? There's a different ratio called
Different
student to
ratio.
staff ratio,
yeah,
which is like 4 to 1.
yeah, we're at
Bring that
4.7.
up.
No, but that's everything from
Yeah.
the custodian to the,
Yeah.
every staff that is hired. Now, the one thing about the student-teacher ratio, the asterisk you gotta be careful of, because of Act 156, I think, I lose track of my acts. And we had always had, we've had for a long time, the SU staff, or the sped staff at the SU's level. About 50% of the districts in the state still have them at the local level, which is skewing that number somewhat. Because if you are a Rutland, which is a centralized school district, that is a K-12 single district, that's going to include all classroom teachers and sped teachers in their number,
No,
which is going to,
No, if it's a sped teacher that doesn't have any students directly assigned to them, they're not in the calculation, just like technical education teachers are not, and if, it doesn't affect this district, but in counting Mount Anthony's numbers, it doesn't. So the state excludes all technical education, because some districts don't have them, and some, they're independent, like here in Bennington, and some, it's part of the high schools, so they just, when they're doing the calculation, they just exclude technical education teachers, and they exclude special ed teachers who don't carry a direct class load, like say they're an inclusion teacher, so then they would not be included, because it would really skew it. But the point being that it's just a number that, as a starting point, but then causes us to look deeper to where we are. Your question would be logical, then let's get a report next for what our class sizes look like. Because we certainly look at those things when we're planning budgets, and we, and it's crucial at all grade levels. I'm sure, at Mount Anthony, it is, they're not supposed to run a class there if it doesn't have at least 10 students in it. So that's the policy.
George, can I ask
Yes,
Jim another thing?
sure.
Jim, this is, for the next meeting, could we have an update on special ed? And maybe meet our new, our director of special ed? Because we haven't met the new person
Yeah.
that
And
services
Would
Bennington.
you put that on the task list for me? 'Cause
Yes, I
that's in
will.
front of you.
And also, we got Karen Burnell coming in for
Yeah.
a short report. She
Yeah.
couldn't make it tonight because of a conflict.
Yeah.
But we had many issues in the past, and I'd like to know that,
So Paul DeMarco is your,
Associate Director.
yeah,
that we're making some progress on the issues we had.
okay.
Okay, any other questions to our superintendent? All right, I have one other item, and then I'll come back to the task list review. This is a certificate of appointment of a school clerk because of the death of our clerk, Tim Corcoran. Goes on like this. We hereby certify that on this third day of December 2014, we, acting as a duly elected school board for the Bennington School District Incorporated, did appoint Cassandra Barbeau to serve as a school clerk until the next annual meeting in accordance with the provision of the law. So we need a motion to do that, and then board members that are here have to sign this and go accordingly.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Anyone opposed? I'll pass it along for any other questions that come up before Jackie reads her task review? And I need a short executive session for a negotiations update. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, and that paper's coming, I need to get Paul's signature on that as well. Okay, Jackie, you're on.
By the next meeting, Jackie Prue, Jackie Kelly, and Jean will meet to go over the BSD zoning attendance policy. Come hell or high water, we'll do it. And next meeting, Jim's going to report Secretary Holcomb's report, and sped report at the next meeting. Our director should be here, and to update us on how things are going.
Okay. A motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn and go into executive session, George.
Second.
And what was the reason for executive session?
Negotiation update. Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Henry.